Steelers Nation, it is episode number 111 of the Steel City Insider podcast. And today we welcome the legend, Bo Marchionte, to the show. Bo, how are you this fine June day?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on. Got to see Jim earlier today at OTAs, and he was kind enough to ask me to join you guys on the podcast. So definitely excited to just kind of talk some Steelers football as we are on the infant stages of this 2024 season.
And infant stages is correct because we are just in OTAs. We'll be wrapping that up this week before the Steelers move into mandatory minicamp. And one of the biggest stories present right now is about Cam Heyward. And Bo, I saw on your site, you write for College to Pro that you talked about Heyward's leadership. He finally arrived to OTAs, and it appears that there is some disagreement with his contract. And let's talk about whether or not you see that being resolved and how will this impact the team.
Well, when he did his presser earlier, he said that he feels that when he's healthy, he is one of the top five at his position. And if you go back to 2017, when he began his, 6-year stretch of Pro Bowls, you can argue that Cam Heyward was one of the best guys at the position. I think the emphasis is he's 35 years old. He played in 11 games last year. He had 2.5 sacks. That's the lingering, issue holding up moving forward on the Steelers, possibly, giving him a bump or extending him more years than what's currently on the contract. I think, though, if you're close and you're around the organization and you see the impact that he has, he's the Papa Bear. He's kind of the last of those old timers where, his voice resonates to the young guys. His voice resonates to the older guys. When he says it comes across as, hey, he's the man. So I think that has, and the article I wrote, that's kind of a little bit of, if I'm Mike Parrott, his agent, I'm saying, hey, this guy is not only a great player, but his value internally to, this organization moving forward. I think that's where the money really is emphasized from my point if I'm, pounding the table to get him more dollars.
Yeah. And Jim, I know that we skipped over this part, but you talked about Bo being a legend. So I wanted to hit on that before we wrap up on Cam.
We'll wrap up on why Bo's a legend later, but we do want to get the subscriber count up to 1,000 people. We want to hit this now before the end. So hit your subscribe button so we can get to 1,000 for camp. Each week we're making great gains. So ride with us. Give us some momentum. I see some other sites out there with 50,000 followers, and I've never seen any of them around the campus or the facility. But anyway, I think Cam has now had as many OTA practices as TJ Watt and George Pickens, I think, close. So, even because Cam came out at the beginning and laid it all on the line, everybody's talking about his contract more than anything else. I think Cam came back because next week is mandatory mini camp, and that would have been everybody waiting. This cuts all that out. He doesn't have to look like he's acquiescing to the Steelers. He doesn't hold out of something mandatory. Gets in this week, gets this interview stuff all out of the way. He apparently brought up the name Calais Campbell today, and that's the guy I've been comparing him to as far as age-wise. You can do it at defensive tackle. Calais Campbell last year at 37. Yeah, last year at 37 and 56 tackles and 6.5 sacks. That's great. Cam has had 10 and 10.5 sacks the two previous seasons. Last year, he was playing injured. Right. If anyone deserves a break, instead of saying he's over the hill, this guy deserves the break of saying, well, he was injured last year. He'll be better this year. I know he's going to be 35 now, but there are other defensive tackles. John Jenkins is 35 now. With the Raiders, 17 games last year, 61 tackles. Fletcher Cox, Lawrence Guy, those are 34-year-old defensive tackles. So it can be done at that position.
Man, yeah. And picking up there, Jim, when you look at his, from 2017, he's only missed 8 games, and 6 of those came last year. So he's been a proven commodity of health and being able to stay as a durable figure. So, we can't go back and say, hey, this is a guy that's been banged up and he misses considerable time. That has not been the case. And as you mentioned, he was never 100%. And he'll tell you he wasn't 100% from the get-go last season. So I kind of echo what you say in terms of, the Steelers kind of saying, don't look at 2023 as the year to compare, Cam. You kind of look at what he's brought and then a little bit of moving forward with him.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to want to flatten this cap number out this year with an extension anyway, at least a year, even, it should get done. It shouldn't be a problem. So anyway, much ado about nothing. I mean, all the people that wrote all those columns about, oh, he's holding out. Now they're writing, oh, he came back. So it covers their day, but we got more stuff. We got better stuff. I was talking to Jack Coletto today, and we'll get to him. Van the Man Jefferson. Let's roll into some of that other stuff.
Yeah. So speaking of important stuff, let's talk about Graylin Arnold, Jim, the potential slot corner. And I know that you've just been dying to speak to him in terms of his role for this team this season.
You make stuff up and make me laugh. I was watching a podcast because I wanted to, since I knew Cam Heyward would go viral, I didn't need to be in that interview because we weren't allowed in the locker rooms this week. So we've got to catch him off the field. So I want to get some interesting news for subscribers at Steel City Insider, right? I want to get different stuff. So I had to look for Cam's stuff on YouTube today, right? So I'm looking around. I see some guy with 50,000 subscribers telling me that this guy's the slot corner because he's not impressed with Josiah Scott this OTAs. First of all, I don't know how you can make a determination about anybody at OTAs other than athleticism and maybe some interesting stories, some sleeper projects, some guys getting extra work. But I don't know that you can rip Josiah Scott. The other thing is, I never saw that guy in my life, so I know he's not down there at camp watching Josiah Scott. So this stuff gets out there. I don't even know how, but his name's Graylin.
Graylin
Arnold. He's a slot. He took a lot of slot corner snaps, but he's a safety. So I think they got him for the backup to Deshaun Elliott, or maybe a backup to that safety crew. Because if Casey gets hurt again, then Deshaun Elliott goes back, and the third safety comes in. Or if Deshaun Elliott gets hurt, they need a slot safety when they want to go with their big nickel package. Otherwise, Josiah Scott and Beanie Bishop, don't rule him out. Yeah. Those guys are the slot corners when they want more the small nickel. So they've got a big nickel and a small nickel. Slot corner is in Deshaun Elliott's hands right now. So people ought to just, if the guy there studying Josiah Scott was actually there, he would know that Deshaun Elliott is getting the call. All right, that's enough about Graylin Arnold for the rest of my life.
I tell you what, Jim, we've I think that's 3 episodes in a row that we talked Josiah Scott. So he might be the guy we're gonna have to pay attention to. So, but 2 of the topics we wanted to get into today from OTAs, and I know that we can't talk anything directly, but you guys are there at practices. We're going to start with athleticism and who's been flashing that athleticism in camp, because it's football in shorts. We can't see anything or pull anything truly away because they're not hitting, but we can see that athleticism. Who's flashing?
Go ahead, Bo.
Well, it might sound a little ironic, and I even remember talking to Jim about it last week, is second-round pick Zach Frazier, the center out of West Virginia. He's one of these guys, in my mind, when you're watching him do individual reps, you just see a base, you see a power, you see a thrust in the hips, you see good extension, you see a guy that can, quick, not so much quick off the snap because they're not really they are doing that, but you just see a guy that is fluid and he's quick out of his stance. And I think that they have a real winner in this particular guy. And I know we can't get into specifics, but I think from this point, at least if I had to guess, I think he has a real shot at earning that top spot as the starter his rookie season. And listen, Nate Herbig's the incumbent right now. He has experience at the position, and we have a long way to go. And it might not be a groundbreaking statement to say the second-round pick has an opportunity to win the job, but I think it also goes hand in hand. If you don't have the opportunity to win that job, it doesn't mean you're up to snuff, if you will. But I think he's definitely kind of shown enough as these early days of camp and rookie camp that they have something in Zach Frazier where he can progress into a guy who could be a day one starter as a rookie. And I think when you're looking at draft evaluation and the Steelers front office, the personnel department, if you can say, hey, you know, well, we took this guy in round 2 and we might get a day one starter out of him because he earned it, I think that speaks volumes to the pick.
And that's
Bo, he is impressive. He is an impressive athlete. I'm going to go more with the speed kind of thing. First of all, let me hit the quarterbacks. And I'm going to do the opposite of what probably you're going to expect about the quarterbacks, but I'm impressed by Justin Fields throwing and Russell Wilson's running.
Yeah,
Russell Wilson scampers, man.
It's a fun group to watch. You know, you see Russell do his thing, and then Justin, and you know, I think Kyle Allen has a little bit of zip, and then you got the athletic, you know, John Rhys Plumlee doing his thing here and there. So
we can get into Plumlee in the top sleepers segment.
Yeah, it's a fun group. It's definitely a fun group. Van Jefferson, we both mentioned him. He just looks like a guy that has a little pep in his step.
That's the second. That's my part 2.
Go ahead, Jim.
Van Jefferson. And I asked him today, I said, did they call you Van the Man? And he said, nobody's ever called me that, but I like it. I was like, Van the Man. Doesn't every Van get called Van the Man? He took a ball. I can't describe too much of this, but the acceleration.
Yeah.
Now, I had been unimpressed early by his speed, and then I looked him up, and nobody had a 40 time on him. There was erroneous reports above 4.39. Somebody did have a Senior Bowl miles per hour time on him, 21 miles an hour. He was the fastest timed by next gen stats at the Senior Bowl. I don't know what that translates to for a 40. I asked him if he has a time. He said he didn't run at the combine because he had a Jones fracture. He didn't. This was his combine 3-4 years ago, whenever it was. And he's 6'1", 6'2", so he's tall. And I saw that 21 miles an hour speed the other day. So man, it was like Star Trek taking off into warp speed. So I don't know if he's a slow starter. He said he doesn't have a 40 time. No one's ever timed him in the 40, but he has that miles per hour. And like you said, Bo, he impressed me. And
he also told you COVID was the reason he didn't have his pro day.
Well, that's why the pro day was canceled. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Jim, so Van the Man, so when he scores a touchdown.
I got one more.
I wanted to ask him about Van real fast though. If he scores a touchdown, does he do a moon dance?
I think I don't know what he does, but my headline is Into the Mystic.
Nice. I know you're the music guy, so I have to throw that out there.
Well, and he stoned me, you know.
We can take that all sorts of ways this year if it pans out.
All right, this is going to be this guy is going to shock readers of Steel City Insider, because last year I nicknamed him 1.1 because of his plottingness and the playing sludge ball. Najee Harris has lost a lot of weight. I couldn't believe what I saw. All right, it was today, and I saw it. And that's all I'm going to say about it. It just, wow, hit it decisively and was gone. And everybody was raving. Everybody went, way to go, O-line, way to go, O-line. So the O-line did a good job. I was very impressed by the quickness, the speed, the decisiveness. So whether the Steelers have motivated him into the best shape of his life, he's finally lost the weight. I don't know why he gained the weight. He wanted to be Derrick Henry when he should have been trying to be Le'Veon Bell. I don't know that he'll ever have the vision Le'Veon Bell had, but I saw something today I ain't seen from him in 4 years. So
wow.
There's for all you Najee fans out there, I give you that. That's all I'm going to give you the rest of my life about Najee Harris.
I was going to say that might be the
first. Still don't have a minute.
That might be the first compliment of Najee Harris on the Insider podcast.
I report it like I see it. Hey,
Wow.
I was even wrong. I was even ripping Van Jefferson. I was ripping Van Jefferson the first week. So those are two guys that if I'm wrong, I don't think anybody will care if I'm wrong. They just want the players to be good, right?
It's true. That's true. All right, so we talked athleticism and OTAs. Let's shift to our next topic here, and this is sleepers, guys that are maybe starting to bubble up that are making you think, hey, this person can come out of the shadows and make an impact for this team in 2024.
Well,
Let me start, Bo, because I got 3 guys, and we can take turns.
that's fine.
Okay. All right. Jack Coletto. And I'm going to write about him a little bit tomorrow and then a lot a bit later. And Jack's the fullback. He came out of Oregon State. He went to Arizona Western as a quarterback. He went the JC route because he didn't get what he considered a good offer from someone that wanted to use him as quarterback. He's more of an athlete. So he wanted to be a quarterback. He went to Oregon State and they said, son, you're not a quarterback. And he finally moved to linebacker. Then he could play fullback. And then he was the short yardage quarterback. And he played all 4 special teams. He got the nickname Jackhammer. I asked him, do you like that nickname? He said, I love that nickname. I said, they call you that here? He goes, no. He goes, and I'm not going to tell them to call me Jackhammer. I said, I will. After you score your first 1-yard touchdown run from fullback in the season opener, I'm going to go to your corner of your locker room and I'm going to say, hey, Jackhammer. And everybody will like it. And everybody, he goes, hey, man, you're my man. All right. He said, I'm the first person to interview him. He was on the practice squad last year here. And so, and he was with San Francisco. They had him as a fullback. And he's got that Bill Cowher jaw. He's got that Dan Kreider neck. He's got the bucket head. He is a fullback or linebacker. I mean, there was some Jack Campbell to him too. I interviewed Jack Campbell. Bo, you probably did at the Combine too. Very interesting character. And this guy is interesting because he goes, whoa, someone's finally going to interview me. And he said, sit down. And we had a nice talk. And he said, he confirmed he's getting first team reps at fullback. And he's the only real fullback they have because Connor Heyward is a tight end / fullback. So they're going to have a decision to make. And Jack Hammer's going to get he's going to get a long look in preseason. So this is a guy who was an all-around athlete at Oregon State and very, very interesting dude.
Man, I think one guy I think, and you look at last year's stats of Calvin Austin, there's not really a lot to go there. 1 receiving touchdown, 30 targets. But I think this is a wide open receiving unit with the absence of Deontay Johnson and who's going to kind of stand opposite of George Pickens. And we know there's a lot of rumors spread, that's being said that the Steelers could acquire one of the big name receivers prior to the season opening. But right now, if you look at the current group, it's a lot of misfits, if that's the word to describe these guys. I looked at the numbers because I kept seeing second round. The Steelers have Denzel Mims. They have Van Jefferson, and they have Quez Watkins, all 2020 draft picks. 2 of them second round that include a former Steeler and Chase Claypool, giving them 3 second-round picks from the 2022 or 2020 draft. I think that kind of speaks volumes on this. Mims doesn't have a career touchdown yet. When he was with the Jets, he's still looking for that. So I talked to Calvin Austin after practice today, and I asked him, and this wasn't a slam on Kenny Pickett. This wasn't it was more of having a guy like Russell Wilson in the pocket or at camp, the experience. And Austin gave some, unique perspective on how critical it is, how important it is, and in this short amount of time, how much Russell Wilson has kind of impacted him. So I think as we move through this offseason, building towards training camp, and we're trying to identify one of these guys stepping into that number 2 role, and I really believe it is a wide open system in terms of all the guys that they have. And then you talk about Austin and what he brings, because this isn't just a group of guys who never achieved much. And Austin at least hasn't gotten to that point. We know he missed his rookie season. Last year was his first year. And again, you look at last year's stats, you're talking a guy with 17 catches. We're not going to really say, ooh, this guy is exciting. I'm also going to add that, you had Matt Canada, who was canned. No quarterbacks from last year's team remain on this roster. So it wasn't like he was, brought into this NFL world with an offense that was kind of screaming production. So I think he's a guy that's on the team. I know it's an Arthur Smith system going into this year, but he's at least familiar with the faces and the way they do things in the organization. That has to be a leg up a little bit. So one of the kind of sleepers or guys that I think could have a breakout year is Calvin Austin, just because of the situation in that wide receiver room.
You know, I talked to him the first week, and he went down south to Houston to work with a famous wide receivers coach. He's trained CeeDee Lamb and Deebo Samuel. Right. And he said he opened my eyes to route running. I forget the term he used, but he flipped the switch or turned the key for me. And funny, a week later, Nick Faribault, you guys know Nick, he came up, he's got an astute eye. He's big on observing talent. He said, man, Calvin Austin is really running good routes this year. So what Calvin told me was true. So what you're saying, I would not be surprised, Bo.
Yeah, it's with this particular room of receivers, we're not saying he's beating out Jamar Chase. We're not saying he's taking Justin Jefferson's spot as the number 2. He's taken of a spot of a Denzel Mims, a Van Jefferson, guys that have never been able to kind of get over that hump and be what they thought, be what NFL evaluators thought they were going to be when they were second-round selections a few years ago.
My sleeper wide receiver is Deuce Watts, but I'm not going to get into him. Here's an inside linebacker, Jacoby Windman. Now, I haven't talked to him yet, but he's on my list. He went to UNLV, and he's from Cordell Stewart's high school. So he's down there in Louisiana. It's a big football region. And he went to UNLV and then transferred to Michigan State in his first spring game as an ILB/DE. First spring game, strip sack, fumble recovery, touchdown. He hit the grand slam. And so he gets a starting job for Michigan State. First game, 4 sacks. Second game, 3 forced fumbles. Out of his first 4 weeks with Michigan State, Jacoby Windman wins Big Ten Defensive Player of the Week award 3 times. Mm-hmm. And then he, at the end, near the end of the year, he got into that tunnel altercation with Michigan. Now, I don't think Mike Pursuta knows this. We were talking to Josiah Scott, Michigan State, and Mike Pursuta talks to all the Michigan State guys. And he said, he asked Josiah, what about the tunnel thing? Where do you stand on that? And Josiah's like, he don't want to get no trouble nowhere. So I got Jacoby Windman is one who was actually suspended for that tunnel fight. So tell Pursuta to talk to Jacoby Windman, because I'm going to too. But and then he got injured last year, so he wasn't drafted, and he was signed by the Steelers, undrafted rookie free agent. So, I mean, he's only 6 foot and for some fractions. It's like more like a James Harrison type, but he's inside linebacker, defensive end. He's got that versatility. Could be an interesting prospect. You have any other guys, Bo?
Guys that just catch my eye, and again, we can't get into it too much, and we're kind of going off the wall, but Jeremiah Moon, outside linebacker, number 49.
Yeah.
It seems like a guy with some pulse, a guy when he comes off the edge, there's a little bit of burst. And, for all you listeners or guys watching this podcast or gals, when you're watching OTAs, it's just shorts and helmets. You can't take too much. You're just the best way for me to describe it to you is you're kind of like watching a pickup basketball game. And you see LeBron James. LeBron James is the best guy on the court. But now you got 90 guys. It's hard to identify. So you just kind of look for nooks and crannies in each athlete, seeing what they do best. If they run a drill, are they a little bit quicker? The ball release of the quarterbacks, where are their hips, their feet, the mechanics. And we talked about Van Jefferson. As Jim mentioned earlier, Najee, his explosiveness today. That's something we've never seen. But when you see it and you see it live, you feel it. You're like, wow, we've never seen that before. And when it takes everybody around those fields, they feel the same thing. That's when you kind of do it. And again, Jeremiah Moon, kid out of Florida, I believe. We're not saying he's going to become Alex Highsmith or TJ Watt, but he can become a contributor, a guy that maybe, has a little bit of impact throughout the season if injuries arise. So it's early. There's a long way to go. But I think number 49, when I jot down my notes, it just seems like I always have a little bit of something that's positive to say that 49 did something positive.
The dude's 6'4" 3/4 with 35-inch arms. And
Longer
get this. Here's 40.5 vertical jump for a guy that size. Wow. 40.5. I got a nickname for him too. Jump over the moon.
A lot of moon references here today.
And my last guy, I think, is a very interesting story. A more interesting story. I'm not sure what kind of ball player he is, but Julius Welshoff, an undrafted rookie free agent, outside linebacker. He's like 6'6" and 5/8, so he's almost 6'7", 257. Ran a 4.8 40, but he's from Germany, and he didn't even see football until he was 16. So he's in he he went to Michigan, so he learns about football, goes back to Germany, joins the Batavia Football Club. He had to talk somebody into it. Said he ran a 4.5, so they timed him and they said, okay, I don't know if he ran the 4.5, but he's at 4.8 now. He said that was many pounds ago. He's added a lot of pounds, but so he runs a 4.5, gets in this Batavia Football Club, and then goes across back. I forget exactly how Michigan caught his eye, but just the size. And so he doesn't play much. And I said, dude, you never played football in your life. Why would you go to Michigan? Why not? Isn't there an easier step to learn the game? He said, that's what I was thinking while I was sitting the bench there. After 4 years, he transfers to Charlotte. And, the Steeler locker room is the home of the Charlotte 49ers. Larry Ogunjobi and Alex Highsmith are, I think, the only two Charlotte players in the NFL. And they're both. And Alex Highsmith always used to say, there's more coming. There's more coming. Well, Julius Welshoff, he is that guy. Very tall outside linebacker. I don't know if he's any good, but he's going to be interesting to watch because he's their international spot. So he's going to have a free ride until the very end. He even gets a free spot on the practice squad if they want to keep him. So
wow. So we have
those are my guys, and of course Bo. Bo is a legend.
Yeah. So why is Bo a legend? We didn't hear the story.
Well, first of all, we never said that Bo writes for collegetopro.com. And Bo's a beat writer with the Steelers. He's been there many years. He's my good friend. Gives me wise counsel. He helps me out. But Bo is a legend for other reasons than being a nice guy and being a smart Steelers student. How many days in a row have you jogged at least 3 miles, Bo?
You know what? I looked yesterday, Jim. Today was 6,449.
Wow. 6,404. So that's like 26 years.
I'm sorry, 9,000.
9,000.
9,649.
Do you believe that, Jeremy?
Beast.
I mean,
that's a beast.
I take Bo. I remember seeing Mark Bruner and some coaches and scouts and players in the pizza shop me and Bo went into. We stopped over and they're like, who's your buddy? And I said, Bo, and he's done this. And they're like, these are real athletes. And they're like, they could never do that. That's 26 years without missing a day.
Wow, that's discipline.
So, Bo, where does that put you on the Guinness Book of World Records?
Well, there's a streak list, and it's really, I guess it's just by word. So you guys could probably sign up and say you're at 10,000 days. But I'm 86 or 82nd overall worldwide, and knock on wood. Continued, as you know, Jim, both Jims, nothing's easy as you get older. So just trying to, I really want 10,000. And the NFL side of me, I think Ricky Williams has 10,006 career rushing yards. So each time I get to a milestone of a running back, I want to surpass him. I hope I pass Emmett one day in terms of consecutive days running to all-time rushing yards. But I definitely want 10 grand. And I definitely want to surpass Ricky Williams with 10,007. So I want to go beyond it, but that's definitely about a year away. Sometime in March of next year, God willing, we'll see 10,000.
And we'll have you on the podcast, right, Jeremy?
Yes. Yeah. We're going to schedule that right now so that we can celebrate that with you.
The 10,000,
that's amazing.
That's 26 years. And I know you had a knee injury this year. And you're getting older, man. Yeah. Knee injuries, the flu, hangovers. I mean, come on. You have to have one bad day.
Listen, sometimes I think of myself like, how do you do it? There's just a half hour, 20 minutes, 3 miles. It's embedded in me. I didn't post it yesterday, but it's on my phone, Jim. I did something to my back last week. I've been limping around, and my video, I said to myself, it's easier for me to go running than it is to walk. And I'll take that. But if you see me walking around, you're like, wow, this guy doesn't look too healthy, but then I get to go running and I'm off in the trails having the time of my life. And, But once once the engine's off, you're like, man, this car's not going to run tomorrow. So, but luckily it does. The watch me walk is ugly. I'm not saying watching me run is any prettier, but nonetheless, once the legs are moving, all that kind of ceases to exist. And the body just, birth of the kids, death of family, COVID several times. It's just, I wake up, I'm just blessed to do it. I love doing it. It's not a burden. People ask me that too. It's not a burden. I love doing it. Tomorrow, you guys might be more familiar, Highland Park. I think I'm going to visit the reservoir for the first time tomorrow morning before I head to OTAs. So we'll see how that particular adventure goes. I've been hitting Frick Park the last couple weeks. Been really, really enjoying getting to know the trails in the area over there. So tomorrow or this week, Highland Park should be the new venture for the run streak.
Wow.
Well, Bo lives in Youngstown, so that's why he's kind of unfamiliar with the Pittsburgh parks. But he stays for OTAs, spends the night, and gets a jog. One time he and I went to the was it the drive-by truckers we went to see?
Yes, we did.
So, and he slept on my couch that night instead of driving home to Youngstown. Next morning, he gets up and he calls me. He goes, "Hey, have you ever heard of this White Oak Park?" I said, "White Oak Park's where we used to have keggers in high school." "Yes, I know White Oak Park." He said, "There's some nice jogging trails. Congratulations to your township." So, I mean, it's so cool to see the way you travel around all the parks, and it's really cool. It's really legendary stuff. And the number one guy in the nation, who you're taking dead aim on, he's got what, 51 years going?
Yeah, he's got a lot. But this is, it's one of those, you can only do it day by day. And I never thought this would be, something I would do. But nonetheless, I do enjoy it. And like I said, I hope it goes. And as Jim mentioned earlier in this podcast, and I just want to know, from being around the Steelers time, 1,000 subscribers, that definitely needs to be pumped up. And if you're out there listening, tell your friends and buddies. And I'm not saying this because I'm on the pod. I'm saying this just because I observe Jim and I watch him do his work. There's not a more astute person, more knowledgeable guy. When they're asking questions to these guys, I think sometimes Jim knows more about what these guys have done or who they are than the guys that he's asking questions to. So, I mean, I'm just telling you, and if you're around the organization, and listen, there's a lot of guys that are down there, but there's one guy who, coaches will walk by. "Hey, Jim," some really high up names. I just want to start listening, but you're like, "Hey, Jim, how you doing, Jim?" Troy Polamalu was talking to him last week. Troy Polamalu didn't talk to me. He didn't talk to anybody else, but he talked to Jim. So I'm just saying, if you really want insight from a guy who's been around the business, who has a respect from the people that we're talking about and covering, I think you're not doing yourself a service if you're not clicking that subscribe button and getting this up. 1,000, 1,000. Let's get this thing up to 25,000.
Our listeners are always surprised we're not more popular, but I mean, we do it the slow way. We're grinding. And I don't know, if you listen today, I think you got some new information you're not going to get anywhere else. I may get suspended for saying I saw Najee rip one off. I don't know if we're allowed to report like that, but what's Bo? Let me give you that Troy Polamalu story. He came over, give me a hug, and we slapped hands and talked about our kids. And then I see Peyton Wilson sitting on the bench. I got an interview, right, with the new rookie. Hey, Troy, I got new books to write, man. So I go sit down with Peyton Wilson, and he's giving me, oh, yeah, and we're talking his life story. I got that story coming over the summer. But Troy walks past, and he's got his hair, in his little bun, and it's grayer, and he's gained a few pounds. I don't know that he looks like Troy that a young rookie would recognize right away. So Troy reaches over and shakes Peyton Wilson's hand and says, "Hi, Peyton. Good luck to you. I'm excited to watch you play this rookie year." And Peyton's shaking his hand. "Okay, cool." And Peyton turns back to my interview. I go, "Troy Polamalu stopped to congratulate you. You must be a good young player." And he looked at me like, "That was Troy Polamalu, and I'm still talking to you?"
Wow.
So we wrapped up our interview, and he bolts. He runs down the hall and catches up to Troy, taps him on the shoulder, So he knew it was Troy then. So it was pretty cool. That's Troy. He's not going to say, "Hi, I'm Troy Polamalu." He's just going to shake your hand and say, "Hey, good luck to you. I'm really going to watch you play." So
Wow.
Anyway, we've really gone over. Bo,
That's
I
all
appreciate
right.
your words. You're a good friend. And Jeremy, I'm sorry that I kind of wouldn't shut up today.
No, all good. So, Bo, we've done 111 episodes, and we've had some legends on here, Hall of Famers. But your running streak, that's pretty amazing. So, congrats to you on that, and hopefully, we can get you back on here when you hit 10,000. But that's going to do it for episode 111. You can check out Bo on Twitter, which is now known as X, at Bo Marchionte, and I'll post that in the show notes. Also, I'll put collegeofpro.com. And we will see you back here next week for episode number 112 of the Still City Insider Podcast. Everybody have a great week.
Thanks, boys.
Thank you,
care.
gentlemen.